Welcome back to another curriculum spotlight, and you'll notice new background. We are in our new house. If you haven't been following my other updates, we're moved. I haven't yet figured out where I'm going to be taping, but for now, it's in my dining room. So, new curriculum spotlight. After struggling for a couple years to try and find a math curriculum that really fit my son, who is 8, he'll be a 3rd grader this year, I think we found the one that hopefully will stick until we get to college, or until we get to high school, middle school, and that is Beast Academy. It is by the Art of Problem Solving, which you may know as a middle school and high school class. They have textbooks and then also online classes. But they are introducing elementary ones that will gear right in that will lead right into their middle school program. Right now, they have levels 3A, so all of 3rd grade, all of 4th grade. The first half of 5th grade, and then like 5C is supposed to be out in September of this year, and then 5D I think is in January, and then after that they're going to do 2nd grade. So 2017, 2018 will be their 2nd grade, the release of their 2nd grade programs. The books are $15 each for the guide, which are color and reusable, and then $12 each for the workbooks. And they're black and white, and then obviously not reusable. You do need both of them to complete the curriculum. You can get them through the Beast Academy website and also through Rainbow Resource. I forgot to check christianbook.com to see if they carry it or not. I can't recall if I've ever seen it there or not. So, like I said, one set is $27. If you order on Rainbow Resource, they do offer a discount of $2 whole if you buy all 4 in a grade level, and that is a specific package. So if you're interested and you want to buy the whole package, look for that one. Time involved, depending on the lesson, 15 to 30 minutes. I would say on average it's closer to 30 minutes than 15 minutes. Other curriculum, probably his 2 favorite other curriculum are Life of Fred and Story of the World. And the common denominator with those 2 are they're both story oriented, and so is this. The guide is a story where they introduce all the math topics, featuring cute little monsters. So, pros of the program. It's a really challenging, rigorous type program. It is good. I'm very impressed with it. For my daughter, in elementary, she used Singapore Math and Singapore Standards and Math Mammoth. I love both of those programs. I would say these are more challenging than both of those programs. And part of that is just in the way it presents the problems, but also in what they expect of the child. So, very strong program. The storyline is very engaging. Another pro is that there's not a lot of repetition, which I guess whether it's a pro or not depends on your child, but my son really hated the amount of practice in Math Mammoth. He understood it and he just wanted to go on. This has a good amount of practice. They get the practice, you know if your child got the concept or not, but there's not a lot of practice of it. My main con, though, is that it's spendy. It's, $100 a year for the curriculum, whereas Math Mammoth, I think that's what I paid for the PDFs of grades 1 through 6. You can find it used a lot, but it is spendy if you, either way. If you have a child who does not like to be challenged to a point where they get frustrated and can't move on through the frustration. If you have a child who just shuts down if they can't come up with the answer pretty quickly, this is not going to be for you, for your child. If you are that way, you may also want to really consider whether or not it would be a good fit, because there have been times when I've had to look at it, look at the solution, play around, and still not get to the answer quickly. But I love it. I love that kind of math. So for us, it's been a good fit. It is easy to implement. It's open and go. There's no setup of anything else. I don't do any preparation ahead of time. Two things I want to mention before we look into it, and I will show you both of these things when we get into it. Number one, there is a hints section for the challenge problems, which I'm somewhat embarrassed to admit that I didn't know the hints existed until I was looking through the book to make my notes for this. But there's a couple pages of the section. It's well labeled. I just missed it. The second thing is that the solutions manual, I've never seen one that is so thorough. I really like the solutions manual. That seems like an odd selling point, but especially if math isn't a strong area for you, that they explain it and show alternatives, I think is really helpful for anyone, but especially for those people who aren't strong in math, which a lot of us aren't. So I'm going to open it up and we will look through them both now. Okay, so here's the guide. As I mentioned, you do need both the guide and the workbook. The guide will show you what's going to be covered in each of the books. And then you have your table of contents. In each of these, there are 3 main topics. Okay. So here's an introduction to the different characters, and then it starts. So you can see it's written in comic book style. I have been reading this to my son because the reading level was when we started was slightly above where he was, but also so that we kind of discuss it as we went. But I know a lot of people just have their child read it independently. There'll be these these rectangles down at the bottom, and that will tell you when to stop, and then what pages to practice. So in each chapter, they break it down to the different subtopics. Throughout the book, there are a few games to play. So that is the book. And there's an index in the back. Okay. Now let's look in the workbook. Before we do that, I forgot that I wanted to tell you kind of what our day looks like when we use it. When we start a new section, we'll do the reading out of here for it, and we'll do all of the reading. And then we usually do the first page of the section in here, even if it takes a little bit longer than what we usually allot, because I want to make sure that he quickly takes what he learned from here and starts the practice of it here. Those connections can get formed. Then we usually do 2 pages a day after that. Depends on how many challenge problems there are, and just how quickly we move through it. But I aim for 2 pages roughly a day. Okay, so now let's look back at it. Okay, so I'll give you information on how to use it. here's what I was mentioning when they show you the sequence of what to do with it. Okay. So they start off, they do nice examples at the top of most pages, and the examples are really good. You'll definitely want to take a look at them. They're not the type that there's no point in looking at them, which we've seen some that are like that, but yeah, really good. So when I say that we do 2 pages, this might be all of what 2 pages is, and so you might think, well, that's not gonna take any time, but the problems are pretty difficult. Like this one, you have your start, and then you have to obviously go to the finish, but only doing like certain things. Like this one you had to do using acute angles only. So then when you look at some of these, trying to get from here to here using only lines that have acute angles, or up there, they get a lot more difficult. So, these 2 pages type of thing may take us 20 to 30 minutes. This one's practicing with the different types. Different types of shapes, and then they have to, translate these. That like this one's a pentagon, but knowing that it doesn't look like that, or figuring out which shape this is based on these. So they really challenge the kids to take what they have here and then practice it in a different way. They're practicing with skip counting, which this is a 3rd grade book, and someone might say, well, what? Skip counting, they should be doing that, they should know that by now. But what they are then practicing it with becomes multiplication, because they're not just practicing by by 2s or 3s. We're also doing 6s and 8s and 15s, and here they did it. They used the word decagon, and so then we had to figure out. So then they had to know that a decagon means 10. Now we have perimeter and area that we're working through. And we're not just doing basic rectangles or squares. We're learning how to do them in other ways. There is a lot of practice where the kids will have like a graph paper, or they have to work through actually physically drawing it. Earlier in here, they had them using toothpicks to make different shapes. So it definitely takes what they learn and forces them to take it to another level. Then you come to the hint section, and there are all the ones with a star. So, for example, here's one of the questions. If you increase the width of a rectangle by 5 inches, you get a rectangle with a perimeter of 22 inches. What's the perimeter of the original rectangle? So then you have the solutions section. One thing that I really like about their solutions is they show you if there's different choices, different possibilities, they will include that information. Okay. And I want to skip ahead to the page so I can show you the problem that I just showed you, the challenge one, so that you can see what I mean about it, giving you an explanation. Okay. So they're not just giving you the answer, they're telling you kind of what happens. That when you increase it by 5, you're increasing your perimeter, and then how to illustrate it, and then how to solve it. So, really, really good in that way. This was, like you saw, this was 3A. We tried this in the beginning of his 2nd grade year. And he could do it, but he needed a lot of scaffolding to get to it. And I felt like it was just too much work for the payoff. So we continued with CLE math, which if you watch that spotlight, I will link that. You'll know that I wasn't intending it to be used long-term, but we liked it well enough, so we just kept with that until Christmas, and then we tried it again in January, and it was a little better, but still not quite, and I was still trying to shoehorn him into using a different curriculum. We were trying math or Singapore. And then in March, I finally gave up, admitted defeat on those, and pulled this back out. And it was definitely at his level then, and we just sailed through it for the rest of the school year. So we'll start with B in the fall. I hope to get through 4A, but we'll see. You know, as I said, the curriculum is definitely challenging. And even though it was above his level, even in March, just slightly above it, he's the type who liked the challenge. So I mean, there are samples on the website, so be sure to check them out, especially if you have a child and you're not sure where to place them. You'll want to take a look at the different samples for that. If you are interested in any other math spotlights, I do have Clean Math up, and I am going to tape Lyle's pre-algebra today, and then I'm also going to do Math Mammoth and hopefully Singapore standards in the next couple weeks as well. So there's that. Be sure also when you're done to check out the other spotlights I've done. If there is a curriculum that you're interested in and you don't see it over there, leave me a note somewhere, and I will take a look. If I have it or if I've used it, I will put it on my top of my list. So there you go. Beast Academy by Art of Problem Solving. Hope you enjoyed.